Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Have You Seen That with T? It is your boy T with another podcast. And today we have a lot to review. This past week, we finally got the Oscars. It was a big night for me and Everything Everywhere All at Once. I feel like that's my movie, right? We're going to talk about that a little bit later. I also do my movie review for Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods, and lastly, we're just going to talk a little bit about the state of superhero movies. I've covered this extensively on the podcast. Just talking about how much superhero content we have and the way forward. We're going to cover that briefly. But let's go ahead and start with last week's Oscars. On March 12th, we had the 95th annual Oscar, Academy Awards. And my I gave my picks, and I was mostly correct about all but one of my picks. I didn't see Jamie Lee Curtis winning Best Supporting Actress, winning that award. I had that going to Angela Bassett, and there's been a lot of videos circulating on the internet about, the look of disappointment in Angela Bassett's face. And I get it, right? If you're nominated for a huge award like that, award that could really solidify your impact, your name in Hollywood, because that's what the Oscars do. Jamie Foxx's life has never been the same. He's now announced as the Oscar award winning Jamie Foxx. Same thing with Halle Berry. Even though the movies that they've starred in after they've won the Oscars have not been that Oscar caliber, they're still announced when they walk into a room, or if there's a party being held and they're an invitee, they're announced as the Oscar winner. And for Angela Bassett, I saw the video and I felt terrible for her in that moment. Not only for her, but for every other actress, but for some reason they a lot of people panning on her. I definitely wanted Angela Bassett to win, but the fact that Jamie Lee Curtis won, I take nothing away from her performance. I also thought Stephanie Sue, she really had a chance to win that Oscar. I thought she had a extremely more powerful performance in that movie than Jamie Lee Curtis did. But what Jamie Lee Curtis brought to that movie was fantastic in its own right. So yeah, I was correct on a lot of my picks. I got the best director wrong as well. I thought they were going to give it to Steven Spielberg because, it's still Steven Spielberg, But they did give it to the Daniels, and they had themselves a night. That movie had itself a night, and I felt like we won. I have literally no part in the movie, but I remember just watching that movie and the experience I had in the theater. It was just so fantastic. It was something that I'll never forget. And I think a lot of moviegoers felt that way, of how impactful, how close you felt to the plot, and Everything Everywhere All at Once. It was just a fantastically made movie. I'm really happy for everyone involved. There are a lot of career resurgence. Brendan Fraser got his Oscar as well. And he gave one heck of a speech. I'm surprised he was able to get any of those words out. He was taken aback. Just by the standing ovation he got. And this movie, that movie, The Whale, there was so much buzz around it, from the time it was made to the time it premiered at Cannes Film Festival and all those Venice Film Festivals, and he was getting these, 10-minute standing ovations. It was just, it was almost in the cards, for him to go out there and win this award, and he did. And good for him, well-deserved award. I thought as he won, when they announced his name, I just kept thinking Encino Man won the Best Actor award at the Oscars. Like the guy who played Encino Man, the guy who played George of the Jungle, won best Oscar, and good for him, man. Brendan Fraser seems like a good enough guy. But I digress from the Oscar awards. we move on to this week's movie reviews. And I actually watched a few movies that I wanted to talk about this week on the podcast. And I'll go ahead and I watched Missing last week. That was a really good movie. If you haven't caught Missing, that is streaming right now. It's not on any of those, streaming platforms. It's on, video on demand and things like that. So I watched Missing this week, and that movie was great. Every actress in this movie, every actor in this movie, it threw me for a loop. I never watched Searching, so I know the filmmakers from Searching made this movie Missing, and it's about a young lady. Her mom goes away on a weekend with her boyfriend, and she never comes back. So this girl, the whole movie is done, from her computer, right? It's kind of like the movie Friend Request, I think it was called, or Unfriended. There you go. It's Unfriended, where it's just like everything is taking place from the webcam. There's a few scenes that's played out, with a traditional camera, but most of it's played out through her web searches as she's like tracking down all these things for her mom. She's looking at these closed circuit feeds, these video feeds in this different country. And the actor who plays her mom's boyfriend in this movie, like right when I see him, I always think a diabolical villain, right? I think his name is Ken Loon. He's an Asian actor, great actor, by the way. I enjoy him in everything, but I always think diabolical villain. Even though he's not a villain in all of his movies, he just kind of gives that creepy guy vibe. And him and her mom go out on this vacation, and it turns out that there's more than meets the eye. And I don't want to give anything away about this movie because it has like this crazy third act reveal that comes out of nowhere. And it just turns the movie on its head. And I think that's what elevated the movie for me. And it just all of the actresses, and all of the actors in this movie, they were phenomenal. It's a good movie. It's definitely a movie worth watching if you get a chance to watch Missing this weekend. I also this week watch I Want to Dance with Somebody, the Whitney Houston biopic, which was a hard watch. I would say that, and only because I watched the Elvis movie as well. And it wasn't that hard for me because Elvis was before my time. What I thought was odd about the Elvis movie was, I don't know why I thought Elvis died in his like 60s or 70s. That guy was 42 years old when he died. And Whitney Houston passed away at the age of 49. Like, they're young. Like that, like in the grand scheme of things, that's still extremely young. Like, they've lived so much of their life at such, Elvis getting found at like 17 or 18, and he's living over half of his life in the spotlight. But the fact that he was only 42 when he died, at least that's what I thought I read at the end of that movie, was just insane to me. One, he looked like an older fella, but once again, this is way before my time. But with Whitney Houston, this movie was very nostalgic. Naomi Ackie, the actress who played Whitney Houston, really embodied her. And it's with these biopics, the hard part about it is trying to fit a human's entire life in a 2 hour movie. 200, under 2 hour movie, as a matter of fact. And it glances over a lot of parts, and it was just hard to watch because I grew up with Whitney Houston, and just seeing the pain that she carried, trying to fit in, trying to be accepted by Black audiences. I think that was the hardest part of this whole movie for me, was rehashing that fact, the fact that, us turning on her, us calling her a sellout, kind of forced her in her mind. Don't get me wrong, like this is all a personal choice, but in her mind, it kind of forced her. It made her try to do more Black things, and that was a very weird flex. That was a very weird shift for me when she married Bobby Brown, I think she did a lot of that for the acceptance of the black audience. After getting booed at the Soul Train Music Awards, after you go to the American Music Awards, the Grammys, and you're sweeping all these awards, and then you come to your show, our show. The Soul Train Awards was our show, and you get booed there. I'm pretty sure that hurt her, more. And of course, it's documented. Everyone tells that, that's the night she met Bobby Brown. And maybe in her mind, that was her way to get in favor. But she was from New Jersey, like she was from New Jersey. Like, she was black. She got with Clive Davis, and the machine made her who she was. And she put out some great music. It was timeless. Some of it was poppy, but a lot of it was just great R&B music. That first album is a bop, like, to this day. But yeah, it was tough to watch. It was very depressing at the end, seeing all that she went through. Towards the end of her life, struggling with addiction and things like that, and her father taking advantage of her. It was a tough watch. It was a great movie, though. I really enjoyed that movie as well. And then that really brings me to the movie of the week, right? The big premiere of this week was Shazam 2, The Fury of the Gods. And once again, I dropped my movie review already. I like to give that raw right when I get home, uncut, unfiltered, view of what I thought of the movie. And what I thought of this movie was, it was a serviceable superhero movie. It was a serviceable movie, whether it be a superhero movie or not. But there was just a lot lacking in it. It lacked the heart of the first movie. And I just so happened to watch another movie review that made me think exactly the same point of, the first Shazam movie was a lot about Billy Batson and his struggles to be a normal kid and, not get bullied and all of these things. In the second Shazam movie, there's really not much Billy Batson in the movie at all. It's a lot of superheroes just walking around, not being experienced enough to be great superheroes. It's because they're children in superhero form. What happens if you get superpowers and you're 8 years old? And the actress, the young actress who transforms into Megan Good as her character, she's the heart and soul of this movie to me. She's just fantastic in every scene she's in, and Megan Good is fantastic in capturing that youthful innocence. And Zachary Levi, every hero in this movie does a great job capturing that youthful inexperience and that innocence when they're in superhero form. But I feel like the entire movie they're in superhero form for the most part. They might have 4 or 5 scenes as kids in the entire movie, so it loses the gravity of their inexperience when you're seeing them as these hulking super beings. Even though they're playing it up, even though they're acting like children, it still, doesn't register in your brain that they're just children. These guys are superheroes. They're adult superheroes, and that's, what the normal person would see on the street. But anyways, it just, the villains, very one note. Lucy Liu, Helen Mirren, they try their hardest to bring something to those characters. Helen Mirren, they both did a serviceable job, but just the script, just the villains themselves, they were just very one note. They want to restore, destroy, rebuild, rebuild, restore, and it's like a revenge plot that just no one cares about. And it takes place in Philadelphia, so I don't care if they destroy that whole city. But I digress. Shazam 2, it could have been great. The first one was amazing. It was a breath of fresh air for DC. But this one, it was muddled in confusion because there was a very childlike aspect to this movie, but then there was some very dark scenes, right? So at first I'm like, man, I could really bring my kids to go see Shazam 2. And then there's some parts of it that just go extremely dark, like dark magic dark. And, it just makes me wonder, who is this movie really made for? Who is this movie really designed to benefit? Who are they targeting? Are they targeting teenage kids? Are they targeting 20 something year old adults? Are they targeting my age bracket, the 40, the 35, the 45-year bracket or something like that? I don't know who they're targeting, but I think they missed the mark for all of those targets. There might be some people who enjoy it. It is better than it's better than Justice League, I will say that. But then again, it just misses a few beats that make it great, that could have made it great. Because I thought the first Shazam movie was great. I thought it was a fantastic movie. And Mark Strong was fantastic in this movie. And as I said in the movie review, there are two post-credit scenes, one mid-credit, one post-credit. I won't spoil either one of those. Check out Shazam Fury of the Gods whenever you get a chance to. It's not really a must-watch. The movie that's coming next week, that's a must-watch. Next week, John Wick 4. That's a must-watch. That's the movie you have to watch. But speaking of movies you have to watch, Marvel, DC, they're throwing these movies out here. James Gunn came and gave his 20-year plan, The Gods and Monsters, and he said he wasn't even done. They keep saying there are other movies in the works in between the movies that were revealed during his presser. And then, of course, you got the MCU. They have those movies coming out. Phase 5 is in full swing. We still got Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which I really hope is a good movie, because we've been getting some bad superhero movies recently. And it's really sad, because you have so many great comic book arcs that you can pull from, and they're just not pulling. And I get it. A lot of those comic books are dated. A lot of those arcs were written in the 90s, 80s, some in the 70s, some in the early 2000s. So they're very dated, but you can update it, to make them relevant, and you don't have to tie everything into everything else. It doesn't have to be these tie-ins. And that, brings me to that big DCEU cameo in Shazam Fury of the Gods. You put that cameo in there, kind of like the cameo at the end of Black Adam, and the characters are going nowhere. So why do you even have them in there? For star power? I mean, I guess the theater popped when they saw the cameos, but that's it. If it's just a one-off, then I guess it's okay to have that cameo in there. But like, if you're trying to make this connected universe, then have the cameos mean something. Have those people on screen actually mean something moving forward. Not saying there has to be a team up in the next movie, but have it mean something. Have it just not be a one-off when it's going to be a one-off. But of course, nobody, when they were making Shazam 2, I'm pretty sure nobody knew how the DCEU was going to change, in the next coming months. So with Aquaman being the last movie of this generation's DC universe, I'm not very excited for it, but at the same time, I would really like to see where it's going. Oh yeah, and then you have the Flash, which I'm not. I saw a preview before Shazam 2, and I've already reserved the fact that I'm not gonna go see the Flash. Every time I saw Ezra Miller's face on the screen, it disgusts me. Like I get upset because there are people out there who are struggling to make ends meet, and this vile human being who was just a pathetic person is still being rewarded, because it is a reward to be able to bring your craft onto the screen and be able to have the masses see you on the screen. I think that's a privilege. I really do. And the fact that they didn't recast them, the fact that they're moving forward with this movie, is really, really sad to me. But I've just reserved the fact I'm not going to go see The Flash. Everyone can post their reviews, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be a good movie. but just not a movie that I'm gonna pay to see. Just my opinion, my right. But moving forward, moving on. Yeah, superhero fatigue, right? Like we've just had so many superhero movies, and they're just not doing it for me anymore. They're not grand. They're not. They don't have the appeal they had. I remember watching the first X-Men movie, and I just thought it was cool. They had the X-Men on the screen, and here we are. 10 plus years later, and now we just get one every other month. And it's just, if they were good, if they continue. Marvel had a good run. Like phase 1 and 2 were just amazing. Phase 3 was amazing. Endgame amazing. And No Way Home started off phase 4, and I just thought we were gonna have, just continue with the golden era, but it kind of went away, and we got to get back to that. But here we are, right? What do we do to cure the superhero fatigue, right? I was once told you don't say there's a problem without giving a solution to the problem. My solution: stop trying to make everything connected. You can connect everything, but at the same time, don't force it. Have a plan, have a vision, but don't force it. And that's the biggest thing. Do not force a connected universe onto us. Do not shoehorn cameos in these DC movies just to shoehorn a cameo into a DC movie. It just doesn't help. Same thing with Marvel. Stop trying to force these massive, end game level events when you're never going to reach end game level success again. It's not going to happen. It could with Kang. Kang is a great villain. I think he can hold his own, especially with the different variants of Kang. I do think he is a very worthy villain to build a universe around battling. But at the same time, just don't force it. Don't force it, and they're forcing it. But Marvel always had a plan. And we'll just see where they go from there. But for DC, I have one idea for you, right? You guys have really spoiled a lot of relationships with a lot of these different actors, and I really wish you didn't. Because there's one story that I think you guys can nail, and I think would be at an end game level movie event that you could break it up into 2 movies, you break it up into 3 movies. Kingdom Come. Now hear me out, guys. If you're unfamiliar with the Kingdom Come graphic novels, it was written and illustrated by Alex Ross, who just put some of his colors on paper are just amazing. But it is a story about older superheroes, who are forced back into the game due to a new threat, right? Superman is an older Superman. Batman is this old, grizzled Batman who forms martial justice on the streets. Wonder Woman went back to Themyscira, and she's just, reigning over as the queen. And Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern, at this point, he had moved off of Earth, and he has his own paradise city that he recreated in another comic book story that would be just a movie event in itself. But all of these different heroes they're older, right? And why do I say Kingdom Come would be great? Because you have all of these older actors who are in the DCU, right? You give it 5 to 7 years. You get Ben Affleck, you get Henry Cavill back as old Superman, you get Gal Gadot back as Wonder Woman. You find that Green Lantern character. You bring Grant Gustin, back as the Flash. Throw Ezra Miller away. He's erased from history, right, with Flashpoint. But you get all of these older characters back, and you can tell this, multi-part movie. You can just make it a contained, limited series of a movie, and it would just be fantastic. I think that would serve its purpose, because then you get a little bit of that Zack Snyder. You get his Justice League back. but it's in Kingdom Come form. It's a great story. If you haven't read it, go find Kingdom Come. It's a graphic novel. Just read it for the illustrations. It introduces new superheroes as well, that you can introduce into the world where we don't get these superheroes that were made in the 50s and 60s, 40s and 50s, I mean. Trying to modernize them. You can create new modern superheroes who are cool, who are with the times, and who kids at the time they watch that movie can grow up with. That Kingdom Come, I'm telling you, that's a moneymaker right there. Just with bringing the gang back, right, for one big. I know Zack Snyder, I don't want him to direct the movie at all, and that's not what I'm saying, but I thought his universe had its merits. I thought it could have been great in the right hands with the right writers. But there you have it, right? I just gave you guys the answers to the test, DC. You guys can throw a few bucks my way for the intellectual property, but it's already there for you, right? It's already there. Figure out what you want to do. But wait 7 to 8 years from now. Let Henry Cavill get into his 50s, right? Ben Affleck's already old, so he's gonna be older, which really serves the better purpose for the movie. If you've read the Kingdom Come miniseries, so that Batman's like this old grizzled, or even get Michael Keaton back because he's even older, which will really set it off, right? It writes itself, man. That's your in-game level event, right? Bringing those actors back, just people seeing that they're back and they're back on board to make one big, grand, great movie would be dope. It would cost a ton of money to make, but I think it would make in-game level like numbers, right? Have James Cameron do it. Have somebody who knows what they're doing put this together. Don't put it in the hands of Zack Snyder. Don't put it in the hands of James Gunn, who's going to make it a big joke. Let a known blockbuster writing, directing person go out there and just do it the way it's supposed to be done. But I think that's my time. Next week, I'm super excited for John Wick, man. I'm so extremely excited to watch John Wick 4 next week. You will see me review it as soon as I can. As soon as they let me in the theater, I'm getting there to watch John Wick 4. I'm so excited. In the meantime, if you're looking for a movie to watch, go watch Missing. Missing is definitely worth your time. I Want to Dance with Somebody. If you don't want to go to the theater this weekend, at spring break, the movie theater was packed yesterday. I showed up fashionably late as I always do, 5 minutes before start time, and it took me a while to get my popcorn because a lot of people were going to the movies. I think they were going to see Scream 6. I don't think that they were going to see Shazam. The theater was not packed in Shazam, but if you want to go see a movie this weekend and you haven't seen Scream 6, go check that out. I would hold off on Shazam too if you're tired of superhero movies already. If you're a superhero buff, you've probably already seen it. You probably definitely already have your tickets. But to me, it's not a must watch. It's not a must watch. I don't think you're missing anything if you don't watch it. But I do think if you don't watch Missing, you are missing something. I think that's a movie well worth your time this weekend. And next weekend, we got John Wick 4. I'm excited. I heard 65. I did not go see 65 last week. I heard 65 starring Adam Driver was terrible. So I wouldn't stress going to see that either. But definitely watch Missing. If you're a Whitney Houston fan, you've probably already watched I Want to Dance with Somebody. But if you want to listen to some Whitney tunes and watch a story about her life, that's definitely worth a watch as well. And yeah, that's about it. I will catch y'all next week. See y'all in line to see John Wick 4. And until next time, be easy.